Alright lads, this is Fenner from Ray, just doing the first ever interview for my channel. We've got Pig here. Hello Pig, go ahead and introduce yourself, because international audience may not know you too well.
No worries, my name's Pig, Jared Krensel. I'm a pro gamer, play Zerg from Australia. Yeah, I've been playing StarCraft 2 since release. I've been pro gaming. I was with TT Esports for the last year. Now just kind of an individually sponsored player right now, looking for new opportunities. And yeah, I won WCS Australia. I guess that would be my main achievement. And I've traveled to a bunch of IEM events, as well as IESF in Korea.
Awesome. So what are your goals with SC2 in general?
I guess it would be to build a career out of it. As kind of crazy as it is to say that in Australia, where everything's so backwards. Yeah, like it's something where I just want to play as competitively as I can for the moment, but I know that I won't necessarily be able to win tournaments forever or consistently for any extended period of time. So definitely I'm looking to, I enjoy commentating. I love just producing content as well. Starting to like put out some YouTube stuff and create some guides and things. So I honestly just love StarCraft. Like I love coaching people. I love learning it myself. I love doing new strategies. In the short term, I'd say my goal is to get out there and win something like an IEM or an MLG or some big international event that has a number of Koreans at it. But in the long term, it's just to kind of, I don't know, I just want to carve a space where I can work in esports and make just enough money to survive, basically, doing what I love.
Fair enough, that sounds good. So you recently went to Korea, so we're mostly going to talk about that since a lot of people are probably interested in that as a foreigner going to Korea, and especially an Aussie going to Korea. So how did the opportunity to go to Korea come about? You went for a tournament, right?
Yeah, basically I'd qualified for IESF, and they paid my flights over there. So as soon as I qualified, I went, wait a second, I've been thinking about going to Korea for a long time, but I'd kind of thought about it, and I thought, well, you know, there's the plane ticket, then you've got to find a team house to stay with. I've heard it's not so great staying in the GOM foreigner house. So I basically was like, you know, I've got to leave in a week and a half, let's make this happen. So I called up some people, I sent a bunch of messages out, started tracking down Kaldor and other people over in Korea, messaged Artosis and a few other people, just being like, someone tell me which houses I can stay in and contacts. And eventually Eric from TT hooked us up with the Prime House. So basically, yeah, after the tournament, I called up the tournament organizers. I said, can you put my return flight for a month later? They did that. They were happy to do that. So I went over there, played my tournament at IESF. Didn't do very well there. I didn't make it out of groups. And then I basically went to the Prime House, and I ended up staying there for like 5.5 weeks.
That's awesome, man. Did your team sort everything out, or did you end up paying for some stuff yourself?
Well, there's always costs that come into it. Yeah. In terms of, I don't live with my parents back here in Sydney, which is probably a really bad decision as a pro gamer, because obviously, you know, you're traveling so much. So I've got to pay rent while I'm gone. There's extra expenses, like if I go out, you know, I've got to buy some food and transport and stuff like that. But the majority of like the living costs and stuff were covered by my sponsors. So big thanks to them for making that happen. Awesome.
So how did you get along with the Koreans in the Prime House? What was the language barrier like?
It was pretty huge, man. Like MKP speaks some pretty decent English.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like a lot of just very basic stuff. Boong Boong makes a really good effort to communicate because he really wants to learn English. But other than those two, everyone's like too shy because their English is so small. They're just like, oh, I'm not even going to try because they're too embarrassed knowing else wrong. They'll, like once they got more comfortable, they'd say some words. But yeah, it would normally just be very simple communication, a lot of sign language. It would just be like, Pigu, Pigu, eat, eat.
Okay. But just on the subject of the Koreans in general, I read your blog about a guy you met on the train, and he was apparently really friendly. Did you find that the Koreans in general are like a lot more friendly than, you know, over here in Australia?
Yeah, I think so. I think everyone there's like really, really nice. I've heard that Japan has a similar culture, and it's kind of unique just to those two countries from what I've heard, in that you go to Korea and everyone's super, super friendly. You can ask someone directions and it's actually not that uncommon for them to show you to the place, even if it's like a good 20-minute walk away or something. And that's what happened on that occasion in that story in the blog. The guy like took me to a train station he wasn't even going to, and like insisted on walking me to the GOM studio just to go watch GSL.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever happened to me, so that sounds really friendly. But anyway, going back to the Prime House, what most people want to know is, can you give us some insight on what the Korean practice regimen is like? Like, do they mass ladder, mass custom, watch a lot of reps, practice on a set schedule, or what?
Because there are language barriers, there may be some things which I didn't realize were scheduled, but for the most part, it's relatively unscheduled in the Prime House. They've got a pretty relaxed system compared to what you'd see in a Kesper house. You've got stuff like, basically, someone like Marine King, for instance, just prefers to just train all night, basically. So he'll be training like all night. He'll wake up at like 4 or 5 in the afternoon. In the first few days there, I was like, holy crap, does he practice at all? Is he just really lazy? And then I stayed up and realized he's just there like playing games all night. And I'm like, oh, okay. So you've got people on all these different schedules to some extent. You've got people just, you hop into customs. It's mainly whenever one of them has a GSL match to prepare for. Suddenly they just sit there watching so many VODs. Like, they'll be watching all the IPL, all the like foreign leagues and everything. Like, they just watch every single VOD, every GSL VOD, and go through of their opponent. And for the week beforehand, whenever they're like not practicing, they're basically watching VODs of their opponent, or studying replays of it. So that's definitely something they're really, really studious about. Other than that, there's a lot of ladder practice. Some of the guys favor practicing with each other a bit more than others. A lot of the time as well, it's more inter-house practice. So even though they're not practicing with each other in person, they're practicing with their friends that are on other pro teams. They'll have sometimes just lobbies going with like 5 of them all observing each other's games and such. And then every couple of days, we'll actually have like a semi-organized in-house thing where we'd all actually just take turns having best of 3s against each other.
You actually answered pretty much all the questions I had on practice there, because Rossi wanted to know about whether they researched their opponents and stuff as well. He asked me on Twitter. But how did the practice go for yourself? Did you find that you improved at a faster rate than when you practice at home?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many factors that come into it that it's hard to narrow down what's the biggest advantage. The first is the ping. Coming from Australia, where if I'm lucky, my ISP is actually giving me the internet that I pay for, which is kind of rare in Australia, because basically most of the companies just overload the lines and are really dodgy about it. So your internet can be unstable unless you pay a really, really ludicrous amount. So I get to Korea and it's 2 ms stable, 100%.
That sounds good.
I remember I had to download the Taiwan client because my Korean account got locked, and it was a friend's and I'd lost the info on it. So I was like, oh, now I've got to, miss 5 hours of practice to download this. Yeah. I tabbed out to message someone on Skype and tabbed back, and like the 5 gigabyte client had finished downloading in a minute. And I was like, whoa.
I need to go there, man. I need to go there.
So that's like massive. The amount of micro you start focusing more on. Okay, so obviously I'm watching these guys that are so good. I'm playing against them and looking at the way they interact in battles. There's a lot more reacting with armies, whereas you see a lot of foreign players playing, whether it's because of lag or laziness, not practicing as much. For me personally, I was just never aware that there was so much more I could be doing with my army. So the lag improved my multitasking. I mean, I just felt calmer multitasking as well without delay.
Yeah.
I feel like I just didn't get as upset because everything was actually happening when I told it to happen, rather than I'd misclick and not realize till afterwards because of the delay. So basically, like, the ping was a huge, huge boost. I felt like I was on nerd steroids or something playing there. Like, it was awesome. The other big thing is the environment, right? Like, okay, not only are you surrounded by guys, but if I'm back at home, I gotta, wash up, I gotta go do my laundry, cook food every day. My girlfriend's here as well, and, she supports me a lot, but at the same time, it is a distraction having, spending time with things that aren't StarCraft. So you're in this house with this bunch of dudes, and you just wake up each morning, you play StarCraft, and then you eat, and then you play more StarCraft. Your meals are being cooked for you, so it's just kind of like, oh, it's food time. You eat your food. There's no real, like, lounge area or, like, lazing about area in the house. It's really small. So, like, maybe occasionally I'd go, like, into the bedroom and watch something on my laptop. But most of the time it's like, just sit back down and start playing again. And you're sitting next to Creator Prime on one side. You've got, like, Bung Bung there, sitting there at, like, rank 1 GM on Korea. MKP across the room and beyond, Maro and stuff. and you're just like, oh, you just want to practice really, really hard.
Yeah.
So I think I practiced a lot harder and was a lot more focused on it than I had before. I think by the end of like the first 3.5 weeks there, maybe 4 weeks, I think I'd improved a huge amount. It was just a really, really big boost, basically.
Awesome. So, would you go back again if the opportunity came up, and would you recommend other foreigners to look at going to Korea if they want to increase their skills?
I think it's a great opportunity. For someone from our region of the world where we don't have a server that we can connect to with good ping, you've always got, okay, well, there's going to be the best internet in the world, great stable internet, perfect ping. That's a big up. You've got the environment as well. And I don't think there's really any places overseas that can offer that environment where you've got, four Codes players in the room with you. I reckon it's a great thing to do, but you've got to be careful as well. Like, you've got to be preparing yourself to get a little bit isolated. They're not going to speak the same language as you, so you've got to be ready for that. I think it would be absolutely best if you've got someone with you. Like, I think of when Naniwa and Sase were living together, and they both seem to work really well, show some awesome results. I feel like just having at least one person with you that speaks English fluently would make all the difference.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of other pros came back from Korea. A lot of people who have gone said that they feel isolated and then they just go back to their own country or whatever. But anyway, you said you also tried for Code A, right? How did that go, and who did you play, and how did the results go, and things like that?
Yeah, that was really cool. I went down there to their Intel esports stadium. It's just like a giant LAN with really good computers, well set up. I went down there. I actually had a relatively easy bracket. I believe GSTL was on that day, so I am and one other team, all their players weren't in that day's session. So it was the Saturday afternoon session, and I feel like I actually got one of the easiest brackets, so I was really upset that I didn't do too well in it. I had Mia, ended up making it out of it. I played against some Protoss player. He was a barcode. I didn't know who he was, and he wasn't very good. I think he was just an amateur player.
Yeah.
And I 2-0'd him, and then I played Sky High, who was a Brood War Terran. And yeah, we had a close first game. I remember basically it went 2-1 in his favor. Really, really close third game, which I made a few key mistakes in. I was a little bit upset with that, but at the same time, I think by that stage I wasn't in the best mindset. Because I'd been in Korea longer than I'd originally planned by quite a bit this stage, and just the toll of not having English-speaking people in the house to talk with, it was starting to I was just getting really homesick and lonely. So I was still trying hard in those games, but even just the week before that in practice, I felt like I was kind of devolving a little bit. I felt like if I had have played it at the end of the first month there rather than 6 weeks later, I would have done a lot better. And I feel like maybe I could have gotten through. But as it was, even though I was talking to my girlfriend on Skype and I was trying to manage my mentality and everything, I basically wasn't in the best state of mind, so I ended up not producing the results I wanted to there.
Oh, fair enough. So we just got some questions from Twitter, from Envy Livyby. How did you deal with no porn on the internet?
That was actually so funny. I just had to deal. I'm in a house with a hell of a lot of boys anyway, so let's just say it's good there wasn't some sort of weird circle of let's watch porn together going on. Man, that would have been awkward. I'd have been I want to join your customs, guys, but no thanks.
Fair enough. From Envy Rossi, specifically, how did you notice that the Terrans practice, and what is it about them that sets them apart?
They're crazy aggressive and they gamble a lot. If you're talking about Marine King,
I think that's who he is talking about. Yeah,
Marine King is super gambly. He loves to take risks. But it's kind of it's almost like they're safe risks. It's kind of like doing those weird let's build the forge in the main base openers against Zerg that Protoss like to do, and there's let's open with a gate in the main, gate nexus, core at the front, these stupid builds. But they work simply because every Zerg isn't drone scouting, so they're not figuring out what's going on in time. They're all going pool hatch, So if your opponents are always doing the same thing, you can counter it. Marine King, he's always CC first or 2 racks, so that's a bit of a weakness in his play, but it's not getting exploited. beyond super abusive, super over-aggressive. I think they all favor aggressive styles in the Prime House. They really want to throw their opponents off balance and finish it before it gets to late game.
Alright, and another question from Rossi. Was there any household drama or trash talk of other Koreans or foreigners?
I don't know if I should say, but because I'd always ask them, I'd always be like, him chobo, or like, whatever. There are a few choice words said about MC when we were watching him play GSL about how he never upgrades and he all-ins every game, but I won't say which player said that.
Fair enough.
But yeah, they were all pretty critical of MC.
Okay, fair enough. And the last question, the bonus question. If you could clone your girlfriend, would you do it? And how many times would you clone her?
I'm like completely unethical, so I would just like choose to not treat them as humans, and I would make like 4 or 5 and just use them as slaves.
Oh
and
man.
I'd convince Dot like to actually agree to it as well. I'd be like, come on, they're just slaves, it's cool. So besides any sort of sordid weird stuff we'd get into, I mean, I'd just like make one, just like make videos for me and stuff, and like, I don't know, I could just be like, you are my modding stream chat clone or something like that. I don't know. I'd probably just teach one how to cook really well, and then like I'd turn my house into like a kind of serviced gaming house. That would be really cool.
Yeah, okay, so thanks a lot, Pig. You got any shout-outs that you want to throw out there?
Oh yeah, just shout-outs to my sponsors. I'm teamless, but I'm still being supported by Gigabyte Notebooks, Ava Media, and mwave.com.au. So big thanks to them.
Thanks a lot, and thanks to Dot for the background music on that guitar.
Hells yeah.
Let's see you. Alright, see you guys. Thanks a lot, and hope you get a team soon, Pig. You definitely deserve one.
Cheers, man.
You don't build rounds instantly as soon as you get the 15, so you go 16 hatch up 15 pull. Nice and safe. You can also go 14 pull if you want. I didn't mention that. It makes it a bit safer against cannon rushes and things like that, but you know, 15 pulls pretty safe. If he does block your hatch with a pylon or something,